There are watches you collect, and then there are watches you study. The pocket watches in the Masis collection aren't relics you gaze at from a distance. They are miniature monuments to craft, culture, and human ambition to measure time with beauty, skill, and artistry. Some are over 400 years old, and some were made for emperors. All of them capture the idea that a watch can be something more than a mechanism. It can be a social artifact, a symbol of power, and a crossroads of craft and culture. Today, we are exploring this beautiful A Voyage Through Time, the Masis Collection of horological timepieces, written and curated by horological scholar Richard Chadwick, a lavish catalog that brings the world's most extraordinary historical timepieces together on these pages. This book is by Richard Chadwick, a specialist in horology and decorative arts, known for curating and contextualizing the world's great watch and clock collections. Unlike brand-produced monographs that focus on product lines, this volume is a collector-centric art historical exploration, a museum exhibition in the book format maybe, with over 400 pages of rich visuals and deep context. It's the kind of book that sits open on a table for weeks, not because you're showing it off, but because you keep discovering something that you missed last time. And I can speak this from experience. This is not a reference book, and it is a guided journey through the heartbeat of horological past. And at its core, the Masis Collection is one of the most comprehensive, privately owned collections of pocket watches in the whole wide world, spanning over 4 centuries of craftsmanship, from the earliest portable timepieces to the richly enameled masterpieces of the 19th century. But this book isn't just a list of objects, it's an argument. It argues implicitly and very beautifully that a watch can be a work of art in the same sense as a Renaissance painting or a Baroque sculpture, because the same human faculties, imagination, skill, and narrative, drive them both. As the book unfolds, it becomes clear that there are 2 parallel narratives here. The evolution of mechanical timekeeping, from early escapement to increasingly accurate mechanisms, and the evolution of watch decoration, from plain cases to breathtaking enamel, miniature painting, and goldsmithing. So this dual story, craft and ornament, is what makes the Masis collection unique. Unlike most horological histories that emphasize technical developments, Chadwick's book places artistic progression on equal footing with mechanical evolution. You can see the first portable clocks where utility dominates, and then turn the page to a Baroque enamel watch by the Haud family, saturated with narrative, allegory, and artistic ambition. One of the richest veins in the book, both visually and historically, is the focus on Geneva enamel work, especially from the Baroque period. There are watches where the case is more than production. It is surface and story where every painted figure, floral motif, and allegoric scene has a lineage in broader European art history. And then there are pieces made for export. Objects made in Switzerland or London, but destined for China or Turkey, where Masis himself lives. These watches reveal a global exchange of aesthetics, taste, and power centuries before globalization was a buzzword. They tell us something provocative. Power once purchased not just time, but also narrative. So, Here's the unavoidable watches and politic moment, and it's deep, not superficial. The pocket watches in the Masis collection were often commissioned by, or gifted to, or used by rulers, merchants, and diplomats. These objects were not mere timekeepers. They were portable statements of authority and wealth. In the 17th and 18th centuries, owning a finely crafted watch was a declaration of status at court, on the international stage, and even in negotiating treaties. A watch was not only read for time, it was read for intent. It signaled educated taste, political connection, and cultural fluency long before wristwatches became mainstream. In that sense, this book isn't just about horology. It's about the material language of leadership and influence. How objects become proxies for negotiation, alliance, and power itself. One of the most remarkable elements of this book, and one that the illustrations make it unforgettable, is the astonishing variety of watch cases. Geneva enamel scenes so detailed they rival museum miniatures. Goldsmith ornamentation that echoes Baroque architecture, that incorporate mythological narrative into its pieces, but also religious symbolism and cosmological references into the very geometry of the case. These are objects that you don't just look at, you read them, you interpret them. The author, Chadwick, doesn't treat the Masis collection as a sterile museum installation. Each piece is given a human context. Who might have owned it? Where it traveled? What aesthetic language it reflects? There are watches that moved from European courts to Ottoman palaces, and from dukes to diplomats, from pockets into paintings and back into history books. Through these narratives, you begin to see watches not just as functional machines, but as travelers through cultural history. This book makes a subtle but profound case. Watches are not only tools of measurement, they are containers of meaning. Not every watch in the Masis collection was accurate, but nearly every watch in it was meaningful. It's one thing to own time, it's another to embody a worldview in metal and enamel. And this book teaches us to see that difference. Here's what stays with you as you flip through 400 pages of wonders. Mechanical evolution is fascinating, but contextual evolution, how society, art, and politics shape what we value, is what makes the Masis collection unforgettable. These watches didn't just measure seconds and minutes, they measured status, stories, and cultural dialogue across continents and across centuries. That's a takeaway modern collectors rarely get from modern watch books, and that's why this volume matters. So, what is A Voyage Through Time, the Masis collection of horological timepieces, really? Well, it's part horological anthology, part art history, and part cultural meditation. This is a book that teaches us to see watches not just as objects, but as windows into human ambition and aesthetic dialogue. But now, I want to learn from you. When did you first realize that a watch could be something more than a tool? Which historical timepiece, not a wristwatch, but a pocket masterwork, speaks to you the most? And what do you think these historical objects can teach today's watchmakers and watch collectors, or collectors in general? Well, I'm very curious to hear your thoughts, so please drop me a comment, send me a message, Tell me which watch book you want next, because this series is about building understanding, not just summaries. In the end, watches aren't just instruments of time. They're documents of human culture and pages of history we can hold on our hands. This is Watches and Politics, so subscribe, share with a friend obsessed with antique watches, and I'll see you in the next chapter.